Hello everybody. So we are going to be doing the French tumbler that was also in the CC DIY blog. So what you're going to need is you're going to need some fast set epoxy. You're going to need the Brio Reese slate alcohol ink, a sponge brush or a brush that you like to use for wood grains. Just make sure it's a clean one or one that you use for dark colors. You're going to need a 10mm wrench and 2 of the 10mm bolts. So I have a cup here that is prepped. So first thing that I'm going to do, actually before I do anything with this, we are going to start with the JB Weld Steel Stick. This is a steel reinforced epoxy putty. And we're going to use that with our wrench and our 2 socket bolts because we want to attach this first and let it dry. So then while we're letting that dry, we can use our alcohol ink. So you make sure you're wearing gloves for this. This steel putty works amazingly, but it works very fast, so you have to work very fast with it. You always want to make sure you reseal it when you're done. I always just press it down. It comes with a little tab in it that you can put back in when you're done. So peel that off. So this, similar to Counterculture's epoxies, are a 2-part epoxy. So as soon as you mix these 2 pieces together, it's going to start curing. So you only need a little bit, so I'm going to save that a little bit and keep that right there for our next piece. So you have to mix this up really well. You just work it in your hands until it gets to a darker gray color. And now what you're going to do is split that into 2 pieces, because we are going to use this to attach the bolts onto the wrench. So I start with this side because it's just the easiest to start with. And you are going to just press that on there. You probably only need about half though, but I'm going to use that just because I like to really get it reinforced into this piece of the wrench down here. So I press it in. It's gonna feel like it's dry, it's not dry. And then I just peel off the extra. And you let that one sit. Just let it keep curing. And now you're going to attach this other piece. And I attach this a little lower, just beneath the actual groove, just so that it sets really nicely on there. And again, I just scoop off the excess. And now you really want to let this dry. So now that you have those 2 pieces on there, we are just going to let it dry while we work on the next step. Try not to move around the pieces too much because otherwise it's going to ruin how it sets. So just push that to the side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our slate Brio Reese alcohol ink. You can find this on the Counterculture website. I'm going to take my sponge brush, and this is how we're going to do the wood grain. Typically I use like an actual paintbrush, but I've really liked using this lately. And so what you're going to do is just make a line on your tumbler and just brush down. And you're going to continue that all the way around. It's okay if you have some lighter spots. It kind of adds to the wood grain effect. Now, I did not spray paint my base, I just used Primetime for my base. You can also find that on the Counterculture website. It is a great alternative to spray paint if you don't like going outside and using spray paint, or you just don't like the fumes of spray paint like myself. I try to limit my spray paint, so this is a really great alternative. And it creates a really easy base to work with. Especially right now with all the bugs this summer, they are bad here where I am. So this just creates the perfect base to work with. Now I'm going to use just the edge with a little bit of extra to kind of create more wood grain looks throughout the cup. I just put a tiny dot and I'm just going to streak it just a little bit. This is going to add to the brushed look. Apologize for the cat meowing in the background. I just really like to make sure I didn't miss any spots, just because I don't like leaving white spots. You can if you want, but I like to at least get them all gray just a little bit. Don't forget your bottom. I just kind of color the bottom. I don't really do that much of a wood grain on it. I may brush just a little bit, but I always like to make sure I don't have any run over on the bottom edge. And there you have your wood grain. It's a nice gray wood grain, something different for Father's Day. Now you can, if you want, you could lay your decal carefully on here, just to keep the timing on this really nice. I'm not going to lay a decal. I'm going to show you how to put the handle on, and then we will epoxy it with Fast Set. So this is it drying. It typically dries fully within about 6 minutes. So it's getting there, but it's not fully done. But we can move on to our next step with it. So now we're going to take some more of this JB Weld. And you only need to work with little bits of it, because otherwise you're going to have excess and it's just going to dry and go to waste. So I prefer to use just a little bit and then move on with more. Mixing it very well until you get that dark gray color. And keep mixing it. I'm just going to move this over so you can see as I attach it. And same thing as I did before, I'm just going to split this into two. It's okay if you have a little bit of excess on the edges, just because it's going to create that welded look anyways. So I just kind of try to form it just a little bit bigger than what the end of the socket is, and I just place it right on there. Same with the other side. Just going to end up placing that right on there. Press it into the socket just a little bit, because once we press it on the cup, it will expand a little bit. And now you just take it. I like to put the wrench at the top, the wrench end. So now you just take it and you stick it right where you want it on your cup. Make sure you have it straight. I just press this flat a little bit. I actually leave that on there. There's a little bit on the edges you can see, but it helps create that welded tool look. And so now we're just gonna let that sit there. And now we're going to let this dry, and we will come back to it for epoxying next. So next you'll want to mix up equal parts of part A and part B fast set. I do not seal any of my inks, so you're just going to work with the fast set right away. You only need about 15 mLs total, but if it's easier to make up 20, go ahead and do that. So we're going to mix this up and we'll be back to epoxy the cup. So now that I have my fast set all mixed up, we're ready to use it. I have a bunch of bubbles in mine just because I mix it really fast. If you mix it slower, you will not have bubbles like that. But I'm going to show you how I epoxy around the handle. I actually don't even start my turner right away. What I prefer to do is I take just a finger and I dip it in the cup, and I start by going around and just very lightly putting it around where the weld putty is. It's okay if a little bit gets up on top where the socket is. It's just going to hold it in place even more. This welding putty really holds tight, so you don't have to worry about this falling off. I just start there and I kind of epoxy around this piece just so that I don't have to try and epoxy it while it's moving. So I just do that first. And then once I get a good coat right around the edge here, then I will turn my turner on and epoxy the rest of the cup just like normal. I like using fast set with alcohol inks because I don't like to seal my inks. And fast set, because it dries so fast, you're not going to get a longer reaction between your epoxy and your alcohol ink. So it's just one thing that I prefer. Now I can turn my turner on. And epoxy the rest of the cup. Make sure you get the bottom. And 15 mLs was perfect for the entire cup. It coated it perfectly and I don't have any waste. And sometimes I find with alcohol inks that I get a couple little bubbles here and there with my fast set. I don't really see too many here, but what I do like to do is I just give my cup a quick spritz with rubbing alcohol. And that works perfectly for me. I get a perfect finish with fast set. So I just always keep a little spritz bottle by my turners and I just give it just a light mist, just once on one side and once on the other. And now I just let this spin. I hope this helps. This is a perfect cup you can make for any guy who's handy and really likes tools, or just anybody in general. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You can add a decal and then epoxy again. Totally up to you. You can do a steel plate wrap out of vinyl and then do the tool handle. You don't have to necessarily just use wrenches and sockets. You can actually use the bolts that fit with the sockets. I just prefer, or the bolts that you can use screws that fit with the wrench. I just prefer the sockets. I think they're easier to work with. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and make sure you let us know if you give this a shot. Okay, thank you.